Hello, welcome to Sound and Fury Book Reviews. As usual, I'm Tina. Today I'm doing a classic sci-fi book review of Manseed by Jack Williamson. This book came out in 1982 from Del Rey. Yes, I clearly read this because the title is absolutely wild. I mean, I laughed so hard when I stumbled across this at a used bookstore. You may also recognize it from my book haul video from like a week or so ago. So this is going to be one of my classic sci-fi book reviews where I give a mini spoiler free review at the start, and then I go through my classic sci-fi bingo, pointing out all the interesting things about this book. And man, there are a lot of interesting things. Man, as in man's seed, man's sphere. There's lots of man-esque things in this book. So anyway, in terms of story, unfortunately this book is one of the least interesting classic sci-fis I've ever read. It's quite dull, but the worst things about it are kind of what you expect. First of all, though, what is Manseed about? In the beginning, Egan Drake was a wealthy but unhappy visionary who died early and left behind only a powerful dream. He proposed to spread mankind, capital mankind, among the stars. Then there was Megan Drake. She took her brother's vision and made it real. At the Raven Foundation's New Mexico headquarters, she gathered around her experts in astronautics, biology, computer science, defense, and fusion propulsion. The project was simple in design, yet grandiose in its aim. 1,000 tiny ships would crawl to the stars. Each that landed on an Earth-type planet would produce several dozen colonists. Each colonist would be a product of the genes derived from Megan and her experts. Every ship would manufacture cyborgs for repairs and self-protection. But much of the technology was new and untried. No one could predict what might occur at a millennia-long journey's end if, say, a cyborg found love, or aliens were met, or what? At first, I thought the book's structure was quite interesting. It jumps back and forth in time between the modern era and then the cyborg man on a new planet who has spent thousands of years traveling there. Unfortunately, the flashbacks have almost nothing to do with the project itself, and more with Dawn, the main character, being obsessed with Megan, as you heard from the back, the founder of the project. Like, creepy obsessed. Like, every man in the story is obsessed with her obsessed. It's gross. Leave her alone. Likewise, the stuff that should have been interesting, the robots down encounters, the new world, the restart of civilization, is overtaken by his obsession with having his dick removed and being unable to have sex with the Megan robot. While I understand that his genitals being removed would have been jarring, his focus on it above all else, especially when he volunteered for this project and he knew what it meant, was absolutely eye-rolling, and it took away from the entire story. I understand him ruining on it a bit, sure, but why does he even care? Did they not remove that drive from him when they removed his junk? If not, why not? It's not explained. There's a whole ton of stuff in this book that's just not explained. They didn't bother to go into any sort of explanation to the science or anything. I don't know. Anyway, also, where am I? So, this is going to be a short review because, truthfully, I zoned out a lot while reading this. Normally, I love these old books, and I find them super fun, but this one was a huge freaking slog. The repopulation plan doesn't make any sense whatsoever, and as I said, nothing is explained. Dawn is annoying, and the love story that seems to be driving this whole thing is contrived and one-sided. This book is a sad attempt at something cool. This is one of the most disappointing books I have read in, like, years, honestly. Okay, so there's my opinion on that. Here comes my classic sci-fi bingo, where I get even more kind of annoyed at this book. So, outdated science. There is a lot of outdated science, mainly having to do with turning human genetics into computer code, but the best is when a character hacks into a bank using a phone. I'm going to read it to you because it's actually hilarious. It was only a freak of luck, a malfunction, in fact, in one of our computers that led to our detection of the culprit. Red jowls quivering, he stopped to glare. How did your son obtain them? She looked at him. I just phoned, he told Mr. Preston, with my computer hooked to the phone. Phone? Mr. Preston turned redder. You expect us to think you got free access to God knows how many millions, actually billions, just by telephone? It doesn't explain. Okay, so spaceship crashing. Yes, Dawn's ship does get wrecked. So yes, spaceship does crash. Social changes? Nope. In fact, there are many outdated ideas in this book, including ideas about human beings' natural state. Yeah. Sexy female scientist. Yes, given everyone's obsession with her, Megan meets this criteria. Aliens. Yes, there are aliens, but they are robots. I guess that counts because they're alien robots. They're bug-like robots. They're not very interesting. We don't know their motives. It was another thing the book failed at, but the alien bugs were not interesting at all. I was like, I'm not even going to tell you any information about them because it's not worth it. Generation ship. In a way, But no, this doesn't really count. Space soldiers. I mean, Dawn is a soldier, I guess, but it's not in the way that I intend this to be, so no. AI or robots? Yes, Dawn is a cyborg. The aliens are robots, and there is an AI in the ship that's voiced by Megan, of course. New Worlds. Yes, it's called Mansphere. Cyberpunk. No, this is not a cyberpunk. Blatant sexism. You guys are waiting for this one. Oh, yeah, there is a lot of this. On the first page, a woman is described as nude and bitchily seductive. Bitchily. What does it even mean? Megan is described as attractive despite herself because she isn't wearing makeup. Also, because she's so hot, she's described as squandering herself by focusing on the project and not dating? Because that's what the hot ladies have to do, right? You have to date. You have to make yourself available for all the dudes. Megan, one of the only women in the book, I must say, is considered by Dawn to be a prize. 100% she is a prize, and that he's always wondering whether one of the other men on the project won her, as if because she's single, she is therefore destined to be with one of them. It was extremely reductive of her personage and her as a character. It was just so annoying. There was an entire page devoted to describing her naked. There was an overdose of phallic and male-centric language, even more than usual. Like, generally, I don't even comment on it because it's like, a product of the time. I'm obviously, if I'm going to read a book from the 80s, it's going to be like, mankind, etc. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. That's just how people talked back then. But this was over the top. Everything was man this, man sphere, all this crap. And I was like, oh my God, I'm tired. There was more, but I'm not going to get into it. Forerunner technology. So this one's fun, actually. Crimson javelins stabbed from the clouding dark, and he blundered into mountains of broken masonry he was too weak to climb. The toppled fragments puzzled him with their hints of tragic history. Bright as stained glass, so long as the waning light could show him any color, they were mostly white, but sometimes black or sapphire blue or marble veined, shaped of something hard and dense as diamond. Many still showed clean curves and planes, tantalizing clues as to what the ruins must have once been, but some had flowed into shapeless glassiness, perhaps from fire. His magnetic sense grown sharper in the dark, he felt metal beneath the rubble and the reeking leaves. Masses of crumbling dust that must have been machines, flattened blobs that had flowed to savage heat. This had been a city, a magnificent metropolis murdered long ago. This is the only interesting thing about this book, and it is not explained. Actually, there was a little bit at the end, but at that point I kind of was like, I don't even care. Here's another interesting one for you. LGBTQ plus representation. I'm sorry, Dawn. Her fine head shook sharply, and she leaned across the table, eyes very grave. Terribly sorry, because I like you, Dawn. You forgive the killing? Maybe. Maybe that's why I like you, but I'm a virgin, Dawn. And my uncle used to say I ought to see a shrink, but I never did. Seldom ever thought about it since the seed ship project started. I have wondered if it somehow takes the place of sex. Okay, so because of this little scene, Megan seems to be saying that she's either demi or asexual, but she isn't sure how to describe it. Given, kind of how the passage flowed, how her uncle said she should see a shrink, all of this stuff, it seems like this is the case. Because back in the 1980s, asexuality probably would have been seen as some kind of a mental disorder. It would have been actually great if she was asexual, because that's some good representation. Except that it's implied that this is the reason why she's driven to do the project. That a woman with a typical sexuality wouldn't be doing this, I suppose. So I guess we ought to be grateful. Wardian used to say it was your misdirected or maybe redirected sex drive that kept driving you to get the seed ships engineered and built and launched. We all talked about it because I think we all wanted you. I added that bit because it was gross. So it's basically implied that the reason she's driven to do this project is because a woman with a typical sexuality wouldn't be doing this. Okay, that's a bit problematic. B, the robot version of her corrects her asexuality in making her instantly have sex with another robot man. Okay. C, it's also implied that she was in love with her brother. I'm not actually sure if she was in love with him too, but her brother, because he was in love with her and knew it was wrong, throws himself off a cliff. I was like, what? Like, this is a very, very short scene in the book. I almost missed it. I had to go back and reread it because I wasn't sure. This, though, was the only thing the author could come up with as to why Megan's twin died. Why? Why would we need that? Was it to suggest that her asexuality was somehow tied to an incestuous attraction to her brother? If so, that's incredibly insulting to ace people, and it was so frustrating to read because I'm pretty sure that's what the book was trying to say. Oh my god, this book is so wild. Like, oh my god. Portals. No, there are no portals. Thankfully, no portals back to 1982. Microfiche. No, there's no microfiche because this book isn't good. All the good books have microfiche. The male MC is a dick. Of course he is. To make up for not having one anymore. Ha 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 ha. Racial equality, not at all. There's one person of color in the book, and he's an Indian man with a deformity who is treated like a sideshow pet. He's heavily exoticized, both as a person of color and a person with a disability. It is quite disgusting. Everybody contributing to the gene pool in this regard is white, except for one guy who approaches Megan all worried because his father was black and he thought she wouldn't want those genes in the project. Thankfully, she does want those genes in the project. Megan honestly seems to be the only smart person in this entire book. But given this book is only 40 years old, the very idea is so horrific to me that it was on a person of color to ensure that there was diversity in the project. I was like, oh my god. Future weapons, no. Post-apocalyptic, no. Assassins, Dawn is an assassin, so yes, I guess. Galactic War, no. Tech similar to today, no. Bechdel test, no. Yeah. So that is my my classic sci-fi bingo of Manseed, an absolutely awful book, and I'm not even gonna keep it. I'm gonna send it right back to the used bookstore from whence it came. Yeah, I have some high hopes though for the next books I'm gonna read. I've got 3 that I'm kind of. Well, actually, no. The first one I'm going to read is Stations of the Tide, because this one has been re-released by Tor or Orbit or somebody. I have it on NetGalley, so I'm going to read that one first because I think that's going to be really interesting. And then I also have these 3 that I haven't decided between. So there's The Infinite Battle, which I think sounds really cool. I all of these are from my newest book haul. Andromeda Gun, and then The Doppelganger Gambit. I think all 3 of these sound really cool and really promising. So I'm going to pick one of those after I read Stations of the Tide. Yeah, so thanks for watching, and bye.